How was your summer? Welcome back. Nice to see you all. We have, if you haven't got the memo, we have one presentation today. I shouldn't say just one. We have one special presentation today. And that's going to be Aymen Mohamed, who's going to take us through his photographic practice / multimedia practice involving his own personal and contextual research. And I'm going to let him take it away. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for coming to my presentation. So I'm going to take you through 4 projects, sharing my experience with the practice of photography, the art of photography. It's my personal relation to how I deal with my work, or how I talk to my own work. And I will start by showing the first movie, which is about the revolution in Sudan. And from here, I would like to salute the revolution, the Sudanese revolution, mentioning that the war that is happening today in Sudan is following many events, a revolution that sparked in 2018. And then a military coup that tried to bury the revolution under the dust, and then the war that you see today. So the statement that I want to make is that the war that we are witnessing today is trying to bury a great event that happened before, which is a great revolution that was done by the people. And I'm here today to expose that and to inform everyone about the truth. And that's what's happening in Sudan is not just a conflict or a rival that's happening between 2 generals, but actually a conspiracy against the Sudanese people who wanted to make real change of structures. So yeah, that's the first work that I'm going to take you through, and I hope you relate to it.
I do want to connect you to a fast developing story out of Sudan, where a military takeover is in progress. Just within the past few hours, the head of the armed forces dissolved the joint military-civilian government, declared a state of emergency, and announced elections for 2023. He spoke after Sudan's information ministry announced that the Prime Minister, cabinet members, and other civilian government officials have been placed under arrest. The Prime Minister's whereabouts unknown. There are reports of gunfire and casualties outside Sudan's armed forces headquarters in Khartoum, and protesters marching in the capital and blocking bridges. Well, today's chaotic events followed a failed coup last month and mark the crumbling of a power-sharing agreement made after the 2019 ousting of the longtime President Omar al-Bashir. Well, the US Embassy in Khartoum expressing grave concern and calling on all involved to stand down. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres issuing a statement earlier calling for the immediate release of the Prime Minister and all other detained officials, going on to say there must be full respect for the constitutional charter to protect Sudan's hard-won political transition. The United Nations, he says, will continue to stand with the people of Sudan. Much of the early information CNN received about the situation in Sudan came from the Prime Minister's economic advisor, Adam Hireka. He spoke to me a short time ago, and I asked him point blank, is this a coup?
Absolutely, it's a coup. It's a coup, it's nothing else. It's a coup, and since all the institutions that have been created to facilitate the transition are now dissolved. So it is a coup, and unless something happening, and yes, there is a change in the process they are unfolding now. Then I think this is an end to transition to democracy and civil rule.
سميناها حرية، سلام وعدالة، فاهتزت أبواب الغيب وانفتحت على مصراعيها، كأن الوجود ذاته كان ينتظر من يجرؤ على طرق هذا الباب. وأقر أنا أن السودانيون أخذوا هذا المزعى مزعى يشبه النهر حين يخرج عن مجراه، والصحراء حين تستعيد مطرها الضائع، والجسد حين يكتشف أن روحه أوسع من حدوده. ليس حلما، بل امتحانا للأرض وللسماء، سؤالا يلقى في وجه الدهر. نمشي ولا نفاوض الأمس، لا نعود حتى نخرج من صمت القرون ونسمي أنفسنا كما لم تسمى من قبل. في آخر خيط من ضوء النهار، حين يثقل الصمت على الأرواح، يتسلل همسهم بين المسامات الخفية للفكر. الوجود كما يقولون ظل واهن بلا معنى وجمر بارد، لكن حين تزيح الغشاوة عن البصيرة وترى اليد التي تحرك الوهم، وحين تتذوق مرارة الزيف حتى نهايته، ينفتح باب لا يرى اسمه الحرية، يمتد إلى ما لا نهاية. عجيب أمر هذا المحدود المسجون في قفص خوفه، حين يحاول أن ينطق باسم اللا محدود ويقيس اللا نهاية بميزان مكسور، ويحسب البحر بقطرات تتسرب من راحته.
Sorry. Between 2018 and 2022, it was a very active time in Sudan where the spirit of the revolution was unmistakable. Like I used to spend my time in so much levity between the Nile River with my friends and protests and the streets of Khartoum, just trying to photograph the new dawn for the nation, hoping for so much to come at the time. So I created audio-visual experience from photos and sound effects, try to bring out the experience that I had at the time.
السولو ده اسطوري.
So, yeah, that was my presentation to my reflection to what's happening in Sudan. But I would like to take you far, or take myself far, and talk about my displacement journey and me traveling, coming to Maastricht, and before that, how photography has been helping me. I always feel photography is the only way for me to reconnect with life as something happening new all the time. And it's my way for having an inner monologue, healthy inner monologue with myself, either whether I'm photographing in the streets or whether I am looking at my own photographs. And I would love to show you the first piece.
Maastricht, a city unfamiliar to him until recently. Yet now it held his body, his breath, his patterns, his poses. It was quite enough for thinking, though not always gentle with what surfaced in that quiet. Lately, a single thought had taken root, one he couldn't shake. The human experience wasn't a destination, it was a doorway, and the deeper he stepped into it, the more it felt like threshold. As if the beginning never really ended, as if you were always arriving. The entrance is the exploration. Every step is still the beginning. It made sense to him. Life wasn't a straight line marked by milestones. It was something more fluid, happening, constant, persistent, unasked for. It didn't care about progress, it simply unfolded, regardless of whether you were ready. It wasn't about becoming, it was about being born, and somehow impossibly continuing to be. Sometimes he thought about space, not as metaphor, but in its raw physical immensity. How we were all just floating in a boundless dark. But that wasn't the point. He felt, and he noticed the thread, the one that wove through all these fragmentations to recognize the sameness beneath all the wildly different lives. No story was ever exactly like another. Every life carried its own rhythm, its own logic, and yet something familiar pulsed beneath even the most distant strangers. The same essential questions echoed everywhere: birth, death, love, fear, identity. Just being born was enough to bind him to the human experience. Even within himself, he could feel the fracture, different versions of himself, shaped by time, place, and need. There was him of now, surrounded by books and late afternoon light. Walking the cobblestones of a Dutch city, living more in thought than in action. But there were others. All of them were real, none of them defined him. Each version was a different language, telling the same story. And that's what puzzled him. The thing he could never quite name. Who was watching all of this?
So sometimes I feel like how reality itself is magical enough, and that sometimes stops me from wanting more or wanting to look somewhere else. And I feel like just what happens to me or the sceneries that appears to me are strange enough without making them up. And that's the way I remember my life, asking myself how in the world that happened. And looking at my photographs, so the photographs that I've been taking throughout time makes me wonder that a lot. And this last work that I'm showing you is about how strange or how beautiful life sometimes appears to be.
Yo, Joe, let me tell you this story related to what we have been talking about. Like yesterday, I had this beautiful experience. I remembered I was listening to music, and then just memories started unfolding in my mind. And I just remembered just a simple memory of me being in the room in your house, and how the spirit is something that completely it's like full of flavors, like the visuals, like how the wood, you know, how that cottage house is made of a lot of wood, and the bed is wooden, and then the smell of wood is everywhere, and the sounds of the gardens, and everything was there, and I was feeling it, and then I opened my eyes, and again I'm in my room in Mastre. It's a completely different flavor, and I was just amazed, you know.
He had always felt that going to that land was less a decision and more of an answer to a question life had asked long time ago. A question that had waited in the shadows of his days. and when the moment came, he could not say for certain why he accepted. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was defiance. But in truth, he set out with no map in his mind, no vision of where the road might lead. He didn't know what might rise before him or what might be stripped away. All he knew was that he had to follow the faint compass of his heart open, unguarded, despite the nightmares that stalked him. Those nightmares tried to twist the road ahead into the shapes of old memories, to dictate the future according to the ghosts of the past. And so it began, the war. Hope and darkness, locked in a quiet combat inside his chest. Each day was skimmerish, each choice a wager. The true challenge was not the distance nor the uncertainty, but the slow, relentless task of being content with oneself. Even as he questioned the very essence of who that self was.
Thank you for sharing that. Who would like to start off with a round of questions?
Thank you so much, Aymen, for this presentation. I will try to compress like multiple reasons I appreciate your presentation within this concise, hopefully a concise question. I first of all really appreciate how you started the presentation with a powerful reminder that a lot of these forms of violence that we face globally and also internally within an institution have very clear causality. The perpetrators of the violence and the recipients, the oppressed of that arises from that violence. And I think it is important to remind ourselves about that, especially here in this institution whose part of its interest is about denying that through the instrumentalization of the idea of complexity. Oh, it's a complex issue and we cannot take position here. And additionally, in that regards, I think I also appreciate how these portrayals of violence and also the things that we also appreciate from our daily life is synthesized through the same angle, the same body that is essentially you. And in that regards, I hope this presentation can open up some space where we can talk about what it means to display that within in Maastricht, within this institution, and how we can resist this temptation, the institution's temptation to render this into yet another instance of political art that is detached from the dimensions of the politics that you're trying to address during this presentation.
Would you like to say anything about that?
I have to think of how to reply to that because that's a lot. But 100% like something that comes in the priority of my goals is to reveal where I come from for what it is, and realizing the so much lies that are projected on what's happening, and how also like the images, there is too many images that are projected upon what's happening in Sudan today. It's as if there is a war happening between those two parties, and the Sudanese people are those helpless people who now needs to be spoken about. But in reality, the Sudanese people are coming from a very rooted place, such as the revolution. And all of what's happening today is just to silence them. So much displacement, so much like genocide, starvation, all of that is to make the Sudanese people forget who they are, what they did, and to portray to the whole world that this is the reality as it is. There is war, not something else. And let's talk about the war, how to end it. But talk about what actually happened and what led to this war is something completely absent, and it definitely needs to be revealed or exposed and talked about more in depth. Definitely. Sure.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really beautiful and very personal. And I can see a very a narrative thread throughout the work. And I see a sort of tension between a sort of journalistic approach, because I feel like, I might be assuming, but I feel like you feel responsible in documenting revolution, documenting rupture, displacement, because these are things that are always considered overlooked in Africa, with silent war, but it's not silent, it's just no one's looking at us. So you feel responsible to look, right, to bear witness. But at the same time, you're also exploring your own levity and escaping in many ways into your mind or into joy. And it's really evident in the way you tell the story from this perspective of this person and his adventures and his journeys, his voice, and there's a poetic voice to it. So I wonder if this is something you're interested in bridging throughout your work, trying to bring them together rather than have them as two separate moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That thought comes to my mind a lot, but maybe I still haven't yet discovered the ways of doing it or the ways of making it more convincing. So for now, I still see them as separate, different forms. But also you brought out something very interesting, which is the issue of representation, which is something that I think about all the time, because I always think that, okay, I happen to be in the protests holding my camera, and I happen to take those photographs. And at the time, no one knew that the events are going to go through this way. But now that I have it, it feels like there is so much responsibility of clarifying what was that, and not just to people, but to myself as well, is to sit in front of these photos and to ask myself the question of what was actually happening, and to whom as well, and to share that question with others. And in the end, what's important is to open a conversation in a quest where everyone is able to question their actions and their reality together, not to come with preconceived conclusions. And that's what I'm offering, I think, yeah.
The next.
Oh, it was just connected to that as well. I wanted to ask about your choice of language and like how at the beginning we hear a Western woman's voice, then we hear your voice in Arabic, and then that changes to English. What is it about using these three? Like, is that connected to this idea of representation or to storytelling? And yeah, could you speak more about that?
Yeah. So thinking about representation, I always had to ask, to whom am I presenting this? And I felt a little bit of pressure in trying to translate my vision of what was happening in Sudan. And that's the best way of saying it out loud is in Arabic, which was the poetic part, where I was speaking to my people. But when it came to clarifying what is it that is happening in Sudan, I don't think the Sudanese people needs much clarification. But a foreigner might need a context of what's happening. And I had to choose it carefully. Also, like CNN is still an agenda, but also it can be an exposure to this agenda at the same time. You know, I just leave it open in that sense. But yeah, there is that question of to whom am I presenting this, and what am I representing exactly? And so they happen to mix up, and I think for now they are a good mix. I don't know. They talk to me in that sense. Yeah.
And I'm curious because I remember that you also did some video. And so what's different for you between video and photo? Like, for example, when you are on site, what make you took photo or video? How this decision made?
Yes, because I have a stronger relationship with photographs, still photographs, than video, to be honest. I spend the whole day just unintentionally looking at my old photographs, and I've taken a lot of photographs. I always, everywhere I went, especially when I was in Sudan, I had my camera with me. So family gatherings, friends gatherings, and I would take them deliberately to be photographs, like not to just have a memory, but like I see something interesting and then I photograph it. And now that every time I feel that the time is passing, I go so much in depth into these photographs, and so much, sometimes I get lost in myself, and yeah, this process comes out, it happens to me, and then the matter of presenting it was a question of how to bring these feelings that I feel alone when I'm in my room with others, and to say, this is what photographs can do to us, and this is how we can relate to ourselves through them. So that's the reason why it's still photographs, not videos. Although I still have similar relationship with videos, but definitely stronger with still photographs. Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. I have a question still regarding the language. It's about the black and white photo and the jazz music, and the way that you speak when you do the narration, and then there's like background music playing. And can you tell me a bit more, tell us a bit more about these three things and if they're related or? Thanks.
Yeah, I love listening to jazz a lot, and it's a way in which my mind start linking memories. When I'm listening to jazz, I go back to 2021, 2020, and then the images are playing in my mind through the music. It feels like always like a soundtrack. And that became stronger when I came to Maastricht, actually, because like me and Esther and Irakli all went a couple of times to the jazz club, and yeah, I felt it more, and that reminded me of how much I love jazz music. And yeah, every time I'm playing the photographs in a slideshow, I play jazz music, any type, and then I look. And then when I had to choose this time, of course, the copyrights issues and stuff, so I had to subscribe in Artlist, where I could source free jazz music, because I can't make it. I wish I could.
If there's not another one, I'll ask a follow-up.
There? No? No? Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
I also wanted to ask about the sound. Each of the pieces has a distinctive and different kind of scoring. Like, so you have a bit of a like kind of drony, like doomy sense, along with like several other selections in the first. In the second, you have what seems like maybe some field sounds that were taken while you were photographing, along with others, and some that are not placed at this, the same time and place. And then you have the jazz. And then you have a more like, more quiet and melodic. I'm just curious about how you're thinking about like, how those work in each of the pieces and how those work for you, with the images.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had different videos where I could extract sounds from, like videos, very short videos that I could not use for its visuals, but the sound was very interesting. In the protests, for example, the sounds of the bullets or the tear gas sounds, that I extracted it, and then other videos of me walking in the street, I extracted that too, and yeah, me and my friends singing in the nature. So I took those sounds, and they were, I was relating to them because they felt like these are the atmospheres that I always was surrounded by. Yeah, and then I just explained my story with the jazz. What else? Which sound do you?
I think, well, like the kind of more soundtracking of the first, where like with the violence, it was more like felt more like a doomy.
An epic, yeah. I felt like I looked for that, like deliberately. I was looking for something that could match my voice or what I felt like performing. And I didn't find it easy, but I found something in the end, same from Artlist, that matches what I'm saying, and that came out.
Yeah, maybe this is another version of the previous question, but it's interesting how you're making, maybe like Nan Golan or something. You're making, it's still images, a soundtrack you're choosing, a voice and a script you're choosing. So you're kind of making, like you're making a film, in reverse, and that's obviously a choice. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm coming from a film background as well. I had a film education. I loved the idea of the frame. You have a frame, and then that frame can tell so much, or can take you to different dimensions. And then how that make all the senses work together. You know, you can see an image and imagine a sound. And I love listening to my photographs. It's something I keep saying a lot. It's like I love listening to my own photographs. I look at the photograph and I try to imagine the sounds that were there. And so, yeah, I tried to create this filmic experience just looking at still photographs and to slow down also, like, because if I have multiple frames, it feels like I am not taking my time to contemplate what I'm seeing. But if I spend all of the time just looking at one frame, breaking it down, that helps me to, even myself, to calm down and to accept life as it is. Yeah.
One last, I'm happy to answer it.
Thank you for your presentation. I have just one question about like how during the process, I mean, how and if during the process, like the picture become like tangible objects for you, if it's like something you translate into printed pictures or printed material, or if it stays more into the digital world, let's say.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm working on that. I'm working on printing a photo book, especially with the last two projects that I showed. It's a continuation of a project that I already started before coming to Jan van Eyck, and it's called The Being of Photographs. And it's good that you reminded me. I brought it here. I wanted to give it to people, but I forgot. Yes, definitely, I would. It's more authentic and more connecting to see it as a hard copy or a print. Yeah.
I actually do have one more question, so I'm going to take the last one. You mentioned how each of the, at least say the first two and second two pieces are distinctly, they're not, related, they're really like different projects. But we see them here in a sequence, and maybe you presented them in other ways in the sequence, and so it's hard not to see them as not as a piece, but like in relation to one another. And of course, it's quite jarring to go from the second to the third in all kinds of ways. I'm not going to over-ascribe it, but I'm wondering how you see that and how you relate them, or how do you make that? Is there a project there, or how are they together?
I think that's the most complex point for me, because the sequence is myself. I have been in Sudan living these times, and I have been also this person who is here in Maastricht. So if we go to the basics, it's me, right? And how I expand between the realm of space and time, like being in Sudan, witnessing this turmoil, this so much conflicting state, and then seeing this quiet atmospheres that make all my thoughts comes to the surface. That's the only link for me so far, is that I wonder it so much as well, and I feel like it's one of the reasons why I'm making this, is to bring it to be questioned. Is like, what does it mean to be you? It's like being in I know many of us travel all the time, and we exist in different dimensions. Like I know you. Oh my God, that's a lot already. And then I have other people speaking completely different language, different stories. And each one of you here is unique so it's a lot. The existence itself feels a lot, and that's why I called it existential quest. And I have an existential questions that I discuss through the work, but there is no direct link or an answer to why, how do they relate. I don't have an answer. Yeah, sure.
Right. Thanks so much for your presentation.